Good morning, children. Now, in the previous class, we had studied about separation of insoluble solids from liquids. Today, we'll just recapitulate with these two questions and then we'll proceed to the next one. Now, why is alum moved over muddy water? Alum is moved over muddy water to increase the weight of the suspended particles and therefore increase the rate of sedimentation. And this process is termed as loading. Okay. If Billy was stranded on an island surrounded by the ocean, how would he satisfy his freshwater needs? He will be doing it by evaporating or distilling the water, the sea water, so that he gets fresh water or distilled water from there, right? So now, today we are going to study about how the soluble solids could be separated from the liquids. So now, the method of separation of soluble solids from liquids. Two main methods are there. One is evaporation and one is condensation. So now here in one case you can see here that a solution is taken when heat is given. What happens? The water molecules evaporate. Okay. Even there is another picture here showing evaporation. There is something very common when you see water vapor rising from any material, any water that you are heating. Okay. This water vapor is rising because of the process of evaporation, where water changes into its vapor state. So the water has changed to vapor state and what is left is only the solute. How do you know that water has evaporated? When you condense that water, when you bring a colder surface near those vapors, what you will observe is that these vapors, they condense and again change back to water, which is collected in the beaker, right? These two processes. This slide shows one such application of getting water or getting salt. This is again possible by evaporation. So what is done is the seawater is allowed to stand in such areas for some time, and during that, due to the heat of the sun, the water evaporates. As the water evaporates, salt in the seawater is deposited here, right? And this salt is then purified and then you get the salt. This formation of salt from seawater is an example of evaporation. So now the next method of separation is distillation, where we get the liquid, that is the solute, and the solvent both. This is a means of separating soluble liquids from their solutions. Now you can see a distillation flask here, okay, which is connected to a condenser. Okay. Now what happens here, when the mixture is heated, then the water evaporates and the water vapor passes through this tube, and as it passes there is cold water flowing in this condenser, and this cold water condenses the water vapor into liquid water, and after all the water has evaporated, you have the salt or the sugar, whatever is the solute will be remaining in the flask. Okay. Now why distill? Now at the end of this process we get distilled water, which is very pure. It is not having any minerals, nothing. Everything is remaining here. So why do we use this distilled water? Why do distilled water? We use it for vehicle batteries and also to prepare baby food commercially. Okay. Now to separate two immiscible liquids, we use a separating funnel, like we had discussed earlier. And even by mistake, suppose oil is mixed with water. So you know that they form two separate layers. Oil forms a layer above and water forms a layer below because oil is lighter. Okay. So what happens now, when these two layers are formed, we can immediately drain out one layer or you can decant it. But the better process is using a separating funnel, where in this funnel the mixture is kept. You can see the two form layers. Then we open the stopcock and try to drain out the water from below. Once the water drains out, what is left is the kerosene oil. So then what we do is we change the beaker below and we can drain out the kerosene oil also. So by draining out twice, we can separate the two mixtures. Now we are approximately done with all the methods used for separation. So there is an activity for you which you are going to do at home. There are 4 different types of mixtures and you have to separate these mixtures. For separation you will be using whatever technique you use, that has to be mentioned and explained. Like rava and salt, how you explain how you are going to separate it. Paneer, how will you get from milk? This you can do with your mother's help, okay? Because you will require the gas stove there. You can ask your mother to prepare paneer from milk and then you can observe that, right? And write down the method used. Then sand and water could be done by you, and even how to get clear water from muddy water.